So we have these plastic containers. They're coded from 1 to 9. And what happens when they are sent to the recycling plants? Yes?
They're recycled differently depending on the
Yeah, the higher the number, the less likely it is that they're going to be recycled, right? I thought that was kind of interesting. I wonder if that's actually true. Plastics labeled with the highest number are only rarely recycled. Okay, now the conclusion comes in here at the end. You guys cool with that?
Mm-hmm.
Consumers can make a significant long-term reduction in the amount of waste that goes unrecycled, therefore, by refusing to purchase those products packaged in plastic containers labeled with the highest code numbers. On the surface, it kind of makes sense, right? If you buy 1 as opposed to 9 things, then the 1 thing is going to more likely be recycled, whereas the 9 is less likely to be recycled. But our job is to rebut that. So did anyone try to rebut that even before going into the answer choices? Did anyone think about any potential problems?
I did.
What was your problem?
Well, I had
Not your
several.
problem. Like, what's your problem? What was the problem that you identified?
Well, my first reaction was, I didn't even know this. I didn't know that there were codes on these things.
Okay, so one thing is, even, I don't know if this is true, but since that's all part of the evidence, I just have to accept that. I'm just like, okay, well, there's 1 through 9, and 1s are more likely to be recycled than 9s. My thought is maybe it's a dumb thought, but I was like, well, maybe when you go out and you buy things that are 1, you have to buy a bunch of them, whereas like things that are 9 are like bigger, right? Like you could buy like a case of like stuff, and 9 is like a simple package, whereas like if you were to get it with 1s, you'd have to get like a whole bunch of little stuff, and so now you're actually buying more plastic, even though it might be more likely to be recycled. I don't know if it's a great rebuttal, but the point is you're trying to think about like, why does this not necessarily follow, right? Why might this strategy not necessarily work? Okay, now which one of the following, if true, most seriously undermines the conclusion above? What type of question is this? Weaken, which means answer choices that are weakly worded are more or less likely to be correct. Less, right? No, it doesn't mean they're wrong. Content is more important. The cost of collecting, sorting, and recycling discarded plastics is currently higher than the cost of manufacturing new plastics from virgin materials. I actually kept this open because I was like, oh, well, maybe it doesn't really matter because it's just still cheaper to like buy new stuff. Wait, what?
As it tends to recycle.
Than to recycle, right? So maybe like you do all this work, but it doesn't even matter because these people are. Because wasn't cost part of this?
No.
Oh, it just says easiest. Anyways, I kept it open at first. But B, many consumers are unaware of the codes that are stamped on the plat. Why is this answer wrong?
Because I picked it.
Okay. Why does it not matter?
It hinges on what the plant does with the plastic and not what the...
Well, the conclusion is consumers can make a significant long-term reduction in the amount of waste that goes unrecycled, therefore by refusing to purchase those products. You say, oh yeah, but most consumers are unaware of the codes.
They will have to be aware of the codes if they're going to avoid it.
I think if they're going to refuse it, they're going to have to be aware of it. So the
I
conclusion
see.
is like, look, if you refuse, then you can make this difference. So the fact that many are unaware doesn't really matter because it's like, yeah, but we're talking about if they go ahead and refuse, they'd have to become aware of that. And so it doesn't matter. The other thing in this, does anyone notice the word that's little many, which just means at least some? So it's like, okay, there's 10 folks over here and they're not aware of it, but that doesn't matter. It's just not too small of a group to care about. C, a plastic container almost always has a higher code number after it is recycled than it had before recycling because the recycling process causes a degradation of the quality of the plastic. This is interesting. Basically, if you buy 1, what's going to happen? It's still going to be like, right, it's going to get recycled, but then it's going to go up in number, so you can't avoid that, and eventually it's going to be a higher number. I would keep this open. D, products packaged in plastics with the lowest code numbers are often more expensive. If they're more expensive, what does that mean? It means you're not gonna want to buy them, but do we care if you don't want to buy them? No, because the conclusion is if you refuse to buy the higher number ones, right? Okay, well, you end up paying more, but so what? Communities that collect all discarded plastic containers for potential recycling later dump in landfills plastics with higher numbered codes only when it is clear that no recycler will take them. Great, but they're still dumping the higher numbered ones, and for all we know, this might happen very often. It might happen very often that there is no recycler who's willing to take them, and then they have to dump them. So that's consistent with the passage. Therefore, this doesn't weaken. This might even strengthen. So C creates this problem. I would say for A, the cost of collecting, sorting, and recycling discarded plastics is currently higher than the cost of manufacturing. What's still true, though, is that people are recycling. So basically, it's like this ultimately doesn't matter, right? And so once it gets to the recycling plant, what's going to happen to it? That's going to depend on the number. All right, what was the most tempting wrong answer? Oh, it was B. Oh, I was like, why is this wrong?
I felt stupid.
Are you guys cool with what we talked about?
Yes.
Okay. All right, cool. All right, let's go to